Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. First of all, can you hear me? Chat, I'm going to need some help from time to time. Can you hear me? Do I need a higher volume, lower volume? Sounding good? Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Austin Yarger. I'm super excited for our first day of EECS 494. But before we get to that, I have a little story for you, okay? A little story about a guy named Scott. Now let me go ahead and minimize myself here. There we go. So, we've got a guy named Scott. It's 2013. We'll go ahead and just call him that, Scott. Actually, can you see the bottom of the screen here? Let me see if I can maximize here. I'm not sure why. You know what? Let's just do it like this so you can see the full screen. So we've got this guy named Scott. And Scott works in Houston, okay? Works part-time as a cashier at the Dollar General, okay? So knocking out a living that way, making it happen, right? That's by day, because Scott, by night, well, he's a game dev, right? He's working nights, working very hard on a thing he loves, making games, and he's really, really trying to break through, okay? But he just can't seem to land a hit, all right? So Scott keeps working hard and hard and hard. He releases his first game, all right? And the game looks like this, all right? Has anyone seen this game before? Let's go ahead and take a look. I want to play this game very briefly for you, okay? So let's go. Come on, help us out here. There we go. So we're going to play this game, and I want you to think about, you know, hey, is this a game that would do well? Is this a game that you would want to play? Okay? So we got the game here. It looks like it's minimized in the corner of the screen. That's okay. We'll play it for just a minute or so. Choose a new slot. A little tight, the day has come. You know, not the beginning of summer or you're coming of age, but me throwing you out. By the time I was your age, I was out building dams, cutting trees, blowing up termite mounds. The war with the termites has scarred us all. None of these things have happened, but it sounds pretty awful, huh? Might happen if a meteor hit. I like that period right over there in the corner. That's pretty nice. Now get out there and make me proud. I'm giving you a whole acre of land to the right of this cabin. So we're going to plant trees, we'll do some stuff, and we'll get to it. Alright, so here we are, Chipper & Sons Lumber Company. We can run around here, and very interesting aesthetic style. You can cut trees, oh my gosh. It's raining, there are money flying everywhere, there are icons and numbers increasing. There's a task button. It's a little bit hard to tell what's going on. I got seaweed, that disappeared really fast. I run around and grab all these wood tokens. This is a lot to take in, personally. Okay. Alright, am I dead? I can't move. Can I talk to? I'm gonna talk to a squid. Old Chipper used to make wood-cutting robots. He left them abandoned in the woods. This thing never blinks. In fact, nothing ever blinks in this game. It's a little bit concerning, maybe. Alright. So I'm gonna see if I can get back up, and I did. Oh, I'm dead again. Maybe I can cross the gap here? There you go, we built a little gap. Alright. So I think you got the gist of it. You're building stuff, you're cutting logs, you're discovering new friends, and there you go, right? Okay. So we're back, I think. Okay, so ask yourself, you know, does this seem like the kind of game that would do well on the market, right? Because Scott put a ton of time into this game. It was really going to be his big win, okay? It had to work out. A lot of resources went into this game, okay? Well, after months of work, this game came out, and unfortunately, it was critically panned, okay? Chipper & Sons came out, and the reviews were harsh. It was meant for children, but the problem was a lot of people found these creatures to be very creepy, okay? And they designed and moved they were likened to animatronics, right? Creepy things you'd see in like a Chuck E. Cheese, okay? And here you can kind of see it, right? Here's the main character and Chucky. Ooh, right? It's maybe not the kind of comparison that Scott was going for, okay? Right? So this was bad news for Scott, right? He'd invested a lot of time into this game, and it came out and just got absolutely panned, right? By critics, by players, everyone, and it did not sell very well at all, okay? And that's really, really bad news, because Scott had a family, right? He had people he had to support, so when the game consumed all this time and money and didn't give any back, that hurt not only Scott, but people he cared about. It's bad news, right? And what's worse was Scott himself was religious, and his games were meant to be a way to share the joys of his faith with others, right? And the problem was people didn't really see those joys. What they saw were these creepy characters, right? That looked like animatronics that might be out to get them. They never blinked at all. Your characters are creepy, like animatronics. Right? That is not what you want to hear when you've invested your heart and soul into a project for 3 or 4 months. Okay? You'll be working on games in this class for that amount of time, and it can be really hard to take that kind of feedback. It was tough. And so Scott gave up. He gave up game dev. He went back to his job, cashier, and that was it. But you know, in the back of his mind, this feedback, which had put him off, right, began to just swirl in his mind, right? That feedback used to be very painful, but over time, he thought more and more about it. You know what? Maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe this isn't something to fear or reject or run from. And a few months later, Scott released this. And maybe you've seen it before. Let's take a look. So, chat, tell me, I'm gonna stop it now. Chat, tell me, who's played this series? Who has heard of Five Nights at Freddy's? A ton of people, right? And if you haven't played it, then you probably watched someone who did. Because this game became very, very popular on YouTube very soon after it was released, okay? Five Nights at Freddy's, a very well-known franchise at this point, was released in 2014, and essentially the gist of the game is this. You are a security guard working the night shift at a pizzeria place, kind of an interactive party pizza place like Chuck E. Cheese. And the problem, though, is that you have to check these cameras and watch the animatronics because, well, maybe it's a glitch or something, but the animatronics like to move and walk around a bit, okay? In fact, they seem to move every time you check on them, and they're coming for you. So you have to kind of keep an eye on the animatronics and manage your energy so you can lock doors and shine flashlights to see what's going on in the environment. It's a really interesting kind of puzzle, resource-heavy survival horror experience that really did well, okay? The game's full of jump scares, which meant that it was fantastic for YouTubing at the time. People's fans loved to jump into YouTube and watch their favorite YouTuber personality react to and get jump scared by this game. And it also just had very interesting game mechanics. It was very fun to play. And so this game came out, and it was an absolute smash hit, right? For indie games, wise. For any game series, actually. It was a smash hit. The game had a sequel. Wait, make that 2. No, how about 3? How about 4? No, we're up to 5 sequels now. And in fact, actually more, because there's the Pizzeria Simulator after Help Wanted, which is the VR game. And so games are just coming out left and right. They continue to do very well. There are 3 novels in this series that you might not know about that the creator was involved in to help co-write. And those apparently did pretty well too, fleshing out some background lore of the universe. There is a Hollywood picture in the works by Blumhouse Productions, which does a lot of horror movies. So they definitely know what they're doing, and Warner Brothers. And so, right, a few of you in the chat know this already, and a few of you pointed out, got the spoiler warning going over there. But Scott is not an imaginary person, right? Scott is Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, right? And I tried to contact him. We've talked a little bit. Unfortunately, he doesn't like to do interviews. So I'll keep working on him. Maybe I can get one for Halloween. But we'll have to see. But the important thing here, and the takeaway from this story, right, impactful for any indie dev, any hobbyist dev, in fact, anyone who's working in a creative field, right, this feedback could have been the end, right? But it wasn't. It almost was. But in fact, it was the key to an iteration that took Scott from nothing to absolute breakout smash hit, right? So the idea, and by the way, this is a story that has been covered on the internet quite a bit. It's a very, very inspiring story. You can watch some takes on it at these 2 sources. But here's the idea. Feedback, it's really evidence. It helps us understand where we are, what the truth is. Are people liking our game? How do people react to our experience, right? What do they actually value? Is that different from what we thought they would value, right? Do what fans like, is that different from what we like, okay? With creative devers, we're always trying to figure out where we are and what we should do next, okay? And feedback is what helps us out. This is called the iterative design process, okay? And you'll see this mentioned in game design textbooks. You'll see this everywhere. The idea is, right, first you analyze, where are we? Where is the game? Are people having fun? Do they have problems with it? Where are the bugs? Where are the design bugs, right? Then you design a change to try and address those problems. You implement that change, you code it up, and then you test it. You say, did we actually fix those problems? Where are we now that we've done a little bit of iteration? And then you analyze the feedback. Okay, you analyze the feedback to find out where you are. You make more changes to make the game better. You test to see if you actually made it better. And then you analyze where you are now, make some more changes, and you keep going around this loop. The idea is that the game continues to get better and better and better, and then worse, because sometimes you make a mistake, but then it gets better again and better and worse and better and better and better. You keep going around this loop. Eventually you end up with a great experience. Whether you're working on a game, whether you're working on a course, whether you're working on a book, right, a movie, your habits, working out, doing homework, getting to class on time, you can iterate anything using this process, okay? And that's the important takeaway. The big breakthrough for Scott on Five Nights at Freddy's was that before he wasn't integrating feedback. He wasn't really listening as closely as he could have been. And when he finally started to do so, he made the changes that changed everything for him. It's incredibly inspiring, okay? And there are a lot of quotes on this. By the way, this is the screenshot is taken from a fantastic book, Introduction to Game Design, Prototyping, and Development. It was written by my mentor, Jeremy Bond, who teaches at MSU now. He used to teach EECS 494, this course, a number of years ago, and I was his GSI when he did that. But fantastic book. I recommend you pick it up. You don't have to. There's no books or other required material for this course. But anyway, lots of fantastic quotes on this topic. Chris Swain, who teaches a professor at USC, he has said game design is 1% inspiration, 99% iteration, right? A twist on the classic phrase. In other words, it doesn't necessarily matter all that much what your initial idea is. If you keep iterating on that idea, eventually you'll get to a place that people love. Another fantastic quote from Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, the creator of Legend of Zelda and Pikmin, many of Nintendo's properties. A delayed game is eventually good if you keep iterating. A bad game that you release is bad forever. Okay? There are lots of more fantastic quotes. It's a little bit cheesy, but we're going to keep going through a couple more of these. Lao Tzu, right? The famous early Chinese scholar or poet. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? You get that idea, you just keep iterating it. And then finally, Shel Silverstein, 1999. The poem, have you heard of the tiny Melinda May who ate a monstrous whale? She thought she could, she said she would, so she started in right at the tail. That is to say, how do you eat a whale? One bite at a time, right? You just keep iterating, making tiny changes until you eventually reach the place you want to be, okay? So we're going to come back to this concept and idea a little bit later, but we should probably get to a few other things about the course before then. So let's go ahead and do it. So let's do some instructor bios. So we have, and please forgive us if we have a technical difficulty here, but we have our staff in the Discord chat, so we're going to go ahead and make sure. Okay, can you unmute Amber? Amber Renton is our IA for this semester.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, can everyone hear Amber? I'm going to try and...
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, perfect.
Can you hear Amber all right, chat? Can we get a volume confirmation here? We can hear her? All right, go for it, Amber. Oh, Amber, can you...
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Amber. So nice to meet you guys. I'm gonna be an IA for this class. Sorry if there's a delay and everything, by the way. Some of my favorite games are Slay the Spire, put 100 hours in it this summer. Played RuneScape a lot in the past. Fire Emblem Three Houses is also a really good game. Blue Lions, sorry about that. Civ 5 is one of my favorite games, and Dark Souls, even though I'm pretty bad at it. I'm the president and studio director of Wolverine Soft. Some of my past experiences in game dev. I was lead digital artist and programmer for a startup called Apica Games. I also interned at Spellbound this year, a really fun experience, AR games for children in hospitals. You can see some of the past studio games at the bottom there. We'll talk more about Wolverine Soft in the studio later. And there's me. It's so nice to meet you guys. Best of luck with 494 this semester.
Excellent. Thank you, Amber. Next up, we have Ishwar Mohan, who is our GSI for this course.
Hi, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me.
I think they can hear you.
All right, cool. All right, my name is Ishwar. You can just call me Ish. I'm the GSI for EECS 494. I just finished my undergrad here at U of M as well. I've been around for a little bit. On the screen are a couple of my favorite games. I tried to pick one from every major platform, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, what have you. I am the president of the Video Game Music Club, which I'll talk about in a little bit after we talk about Wolverine Soft. I worked at Roblox in the summer of 2019. If you're interested in learning more about Roblox, feel free to chat with me about that. And over in the bottom right corner, I have a little screenshot of the game that I worked on when I took 494 last fall. Feel free to email me with any questions you have. I'm happy to chat about anything. Good luck this semester.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ish. All right. My name is Austin Yarger. I'm a lecturer here at the University of Michigan. I've been teaching EECS 494 for a number of semesters now, way back as an IA under Jeremy Bond, and then a GSI under Jeremy Bond and Mitchell Block, who did a fantastic job with the course. We've been iterating it since then. I've done a lot of stuff. This is kind of outdated. I apologize. I worked at Electronic Arts on The Sims 4 and on their mobile technologies team as well at EA Mobile. I worked at Facebook. The University of Michigan, graduated from there, master's, bachelor's, all that. I did some simulation work for DARPA. I partner pretty regularly with Ann Arbor Spark, the incubator in downtown that helps build up Michigan small businesses. We've done some simulation work for research teams at Wayne State. I run the local chapter of the IGDA Ann Arbor with my colleague, Professor Corbin Reeves at EMU. And I have a startup, Arbor Interactive, that does educational games for the federal government and random YouTubing brands. And we also are crunching right now on some original IP. So I apologize if sometimes I seem a bit tired, and vocabulary tends to come slowly to me when I'm tired. So I apologize in advance for that. Okay, so Amber, would you like to tell the course about Wolverine Soft? As a just a quick thing first, though, ladies and gentlemen, Wolverine Soft and EECS 494 are pretty tightly knit. Participating in the Wolverine Soft community just tends to make EECS 494 a bit easier from all the fantastic tutorials and fantastic community that they have. Amber, would you please tell us more about Wolverine Soft and what impact you have?
So, hi again, everybody. I am the president and studio director of Wolverine Soft. I have an informational slide coming up next here. But essentially, Wolverine Soft is split into two sides. One side is a little more casual. That's where we have weekly meetings. And the other side is more committal. It's Wolverine Soft Studio, which I will talk about shortly. Slide change. We switch slides. Thank you so much. I'm not going to go through everything in great detail here, but if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to DM me anytime. Wolverine Soft, we host 2 game jams per semester. They're like 48-hour game hackathons. We also have weekly meetings on our Discord on Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We usually invite guest speakers here. I believe we've gotten Stardock to speak twice this semester as well, so it's very exciting. Every now and then we have community nights. These happen around bi-weekly or monthly. Here we just get together and play games, foster that community. The time commitment is around 3 to 4 hours a week for our casual side. It's all optional. If you want to join, we have some links up there. But again, if you want to know more, please feel free to DM me. And I'll be talking about the studio next. Slide change. Studio is every semester we have a team of around 30 to 40. We've reached up to 50 students working on a game project together, and these usually produce very solid portfolio pieces. It's always a really cool experience, so I highly recommend that you try to apply to join because honestly it's really cool for your portfolio. We usually have weekly meetings on Sundays separate from the rest of Wolverine Soft. The time is still TBD. Our first non-mass meeting is going to be on September 13th. But if you're interested in joining, please fill out our application. Again, it's listed up there. If you don't catch it in time, feel free to DM me. I'm on the Discord as Amber Renton. The time commitment is a little more heavy, but it's honestly all worth it. And we have a few more slides that just show some gifs of the games we've worked on in the past. So here's Dreamalo. It's a 2D top-down twin-stick shooter that we worked on in fall 2019, around 30 students. Next, we have Desolation Place, which is a 3D horror game with a bit of a narrative that we worked on over the summer. We had around 25 students, and it went very smoothly. And finally, we have Bloom Tome of Power, which is a retro FPS in the style of Doom. We had around 31 students working on this one, and it came out so well. I highly recommend that you visit our itch page in the top right corner there to play these games yourselves. And that is it from me. Again, feel free to DM me if you want more information about this student org.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amber. Ish, would you like to talk about the Video Game Music Club?
GMC.
Sweet. Hey guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the other game development related clubs on campus, the Video Game Music Club. Next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah, so the Video Game Music Club is kind of a informal community of UMich students who are passionate about game audio, music, sound design, anything related to sound in your games. We meet weekly on Monday nights in our Discord server. We talk about different topics. Examples of what we talked about include musical storytelling, interactive music in games. Even we've gone over things like music theory basics using game music examples. We don't require any prior like professional or formal experience in music. Just we ask if you guys could come with, an open ear and a willingness to participate and talk and engage with us. We also have in the past done a lot of workshops on getting started with music composition and production. If you're interested in writing your own music for your EECS 494 game, that might be a great place to get started and get some tips. We also have a small musical ensemble, which you saw a picture of in the previous slide. Unfortunately, because we're remote, that ensemble probably won't be meeting, but it would exist. If you're interested, you can feel free to email the leadership email or join our Discord server, which is linked on the slide here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ish. All right. Video Game Music Club, fantastic opportunity. Music is incredibly important to setting the tone of your game, right? It's almost like it really helps you control the emotion your player is going to experience when they experience your game. And likewise, the Wolverine Soft Studio is super impactful. Remember, you can actually get academic credit for participating in that org, in addition to the fantastic portfolio piece that comes from finishing the game with the big team. If you're interested, please consider that for future semesters, all right? Okay. So that's us. That's the staff. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Send an email to eeks494staff@umich.edu, or you can always ask some questions on Piazza or on the course Discord server as well. Or you can come to our office hours, and we'll talk about those office hours in just a bit. Get to some logistics a little bit later. Okay, let's keep going. One big question that you face on the first day of any course is, what is this course really about? Like, should you stay in it? Should you go find a different course? Is your schedule right fit for taking the course, right? In terms of workload, stuff like that. Well, let's go ahead and talk about that. I want to answer the question right now, what is EECS 494? There's a good chance we'll get about halfway through this lecture, or most of the way through, and we'll take a break at noon 30. We'll take a break half the way through every lecture, and if I forget chat, you got to help me out and let me know, okay? We'll take a 5-minute break. Everyone can use the restroom and all that, okay? Okay. So let's go ahead and get to it. What is EECS 494? This is such I love this image. This is actually from one of our in-person showcases that we do every semester that we can. We'll talk a little bit about how the showcase changes. In some ways, a very positive change when we do a digital-only semester. Okay. If I can get this Windows, come on Windows. Oh my gosh, all right. So EECS 494, first and foremost, it's a game dev course, okay? But what does that really mean? How will you notice, right? Well, let's go ahead and I want to show you a couple trailers from, and I think you can hear me, right? Can you hear me, chat? Yes. So I want to show you a few trailers from previous student games that have been made in this course. Okay, the first one up is Gust. Let's take a look.
In Gust, You stumble upon a tomb and discover an ancient weapon that gives you the power of the wind. You have the ability to push and pull objects, carry and shoot items, and fire off gusts of air. Using this weapon, you must solve the puzzles, defeat the enemies living in the pyramids, and save the world. Good luck.
Right, so Gust, a fantastic kind of adventure puzzle game in which you get the power of the wind and you have to solve unique puzzles using the mechanics that device provides. It's really impressive stuff. Let's go ahead and take a look at another. Here is a game called Buccaneer Booty Battle. Let's take a look. This was a very popular game at the showcase they participated in.
Among the seven seas there lie a dark and desolate cove, the home to such a scary fright you never thought you'd know. A hungry, angry, chomping chest who's starving for some treasure. You pirates better feed him lest he bury ye forever. Roll yourselves around the cove and scavenge ye some gold. Bring boulders with cannons and blast away your foes. Select the treasure quickly and be sure to dodge the cannons and shoot them into Chauncey's mouth to end his sorry famine. So aim and shoot and sail and pass and don't forget to paddle and fight your way to victory in this Buccaneer Booty battle.
This is easily one of my favorite trailers, an absolutely incredible soundtrack, and it's timed so well to the action. Right? So one thing you'll notice is that this course is not only about making a game, okay? But it's about making a game that has impact, okay? And that has impact part means a lot of things. It means in this course, we will be assigned with creating a trailer that does a few things. It has to engage and hook the audience. It has to explain to them what is going on, right? Yeah, so the what, the why, right? And it has to explain, what's unique about it. So just the design of the trailer itself is going to be a challenge for you later on in the course. A very fun challenge, and we can learn a lot from that exercise. Okay? So this is a game dev course. Another way you might know that, besides just working on games, is, when you're making software, a lot of the time it tends to look like this, right? Visual Studio open, fantastic IDE. That's a pretty good time, right? Lots of text. Okay, that's cool. When you're working on games, it often tends to look like this, right? There's a lot of code, yes, but it's also very visual, right? Because games are such a visual and interactive and media-rich medium. It's often a very kind of playful activity even to engage in game development in the first place, right? When you experience a bug, when you're programming some back-end stuff, or when you're writing some terminal apps and stuff like that, it looks like this. It's kind of exciting, maybe not necessarily in a great way though. When you have a bug in mobile development, it can look like this. Well, it's not too fun, is it? In iOS, like this, right? If you're working in operating systems, you might experience a bug like this, a big crash. It's not very fun. Web dev, here you go. Or maybe, if you're lucky, this is the most exciting bug you might get when you're programming servers and doing some web dev, maybe. Now, there are probably some more interesting bugs you could get, but when you have a bug in game dev, it looks like this. Right? Sliding over there, whoa, no problem, deal with it. Or maybe it looks like this. Right? Got some FIFA, go, whoa, no, it's not supposed to look like that, right? Or maybe if you're truly lucky, you get a bug like this. Who's played Red Dead Redemption? Chat, has anyone played Red Dead Redemption? Let's take a look at the bird people glitch.
I believe I can fly. Hey, 'cause I believe in you.
This video is extremely funny, and I encourage you to watch the rest of it, because I believe it goes over some other bugs that you can find too, including when the game accidentally maps a human's 3D model to the animation bones of a tiger. So you have humans running around like a tiger. It's very strange, it's bizarre, but what fun, right? Even bugs, when you're making games, can be extremely fun and playful. You can watch this video a little bit later. I want to keep moving, but sometimes bugs can even be part of the game. In this video, a speedrunner who's trying to get the Mario World Record runs through a wall, clips into a wall, and sprints past it to get a record time. Okay? So another reason it's playful, besides the bugs and the fact that you're just working on games, is the fans, right? People just really, really love games. There's a huge audience out there of very passionate people who will play your games if you release them. Right? This is what our showcase tends to look like. And in fact, these days, it's much bigger than this, with more games and many more people coming through. And actually, there's something very interesting about this photo if you look very closely, right? Look closely, because outside it is snowing and pitch dark, right? People came through the snow at like 8, 9 p.m. to get here to play your games, right? It's absolutely awesome. And part of it, too, is the interactivity, right? Players talking to you, or, telling you about what they loved, doing things maybe you didn't expect, right? And so it keeps things very, very interesting for the game developer. It's so much fun. I think you're going to like it. Here's a video. I'm not going to play this. You know what? Maybe I'll play it, okay? This is the reveal trailer for Final Fantasy VII Remake at the Sony PlayStation E3 conference in 2015. I'll try and navigate you to the right point, but what I want you to pay attention to is when the camera comes back to the audience after seeing this reveal trailer, I want you to listen to how the audience sounds, okay?
Now, many years ago, Square Enix released a groundbreaking title that went on to become one of the most beloved games in PlayStation and video game history. Tonight, I am proud to announce that by popular demand, we have a very special treat for everyone.
Long ago, we looked upon a foreboding sky. The ever it brings. For they are coming back. At last, the promise has been made.
And you see people in the crowd, they go, oh, they can barely stand it. The energy is just pouring out of them, right? And if you felt a little bit of goosebumps while watching that trailer again, you're not alone, okay? People really, really love this medium. Very passionate fans, and you get to be a part of that to contribute to it, okay? Another cool thing is that, like, this is in demand. Like, you can, these days, work in games and make a career out of it. There are a lot of companies out there that will hire you. All of these companies have, I believe all of them have a 494 grad in them, right? That's a lot of companies, but not just Western companies that you know, but also there are companies all over the world, right? There are companies in Asia that are extremely huge. There are companies everywhere who will hire you to make games, though it is a very competitive field to get into. Even companies that you might not think of as game developers are doing game development these days, right? What about Google? Well, hey, they have a first-party studio now. They're gearing up to make AAA releases for their Stadia game platform, right? Their cloud streaming platform, building new cool tech for the industry. What about Microsoft? Well, of course, they've got the Xbox, right? And that's they make a lot of games, hire a lot of people too. What about Netflix? Did you know that they have made games? Right? They did release a game. I don't think it did too well, but they are hiring people and pouring resources into this field. right? What about Amazon Game Studios? It exists, absolutely. They're making and releasing games and doing cool stuff as well. What about, Quicken Loans in Detroit? Did you know that they have a game team? In fact, they do. One of their leads came to the IGDA not too long ago, and I believe they do interactive ads and interactive exhibits for their customers, kind of gamification, stuff like that. What about KFC? Who knows that KFC has some game development activity going on, right? And if you don't believe me, let me prove it to you. This is an official trailer for a free game you can play right now. Yes, you too can date Colonel Sanders if you want to. The game's okay. I mean, I'm not a connoisseur of dating sims, but it's a free game. It came out on Steam. It has really, really great reviews. And so there you go. Like, all sorts of companies are making games these days. They want to have kind of an interactive digital presence. And a game is one way to do that. Yep, see a lot of good reviews. So there you go. How large is the games industry? Chat. Let's save a little bit of time. I won't ask you to guess, but I'll give you a hint. It is substantially more than Hollywood. You might not realize that, though. The global games market is actually about $140 billion, and that's a projection by Newzoo, which is one of the research analysts that Microsoft associates with. A lot of that is in mobile. A growing portion of that looks like it's going to be in VR. And there's a big, healthy contingent with the more traditional console and PC games as well. It's a very big industry with a lot of resources going into it and coming out of it. It's cool stuff, okay? And news lines, gaming worth more than video and music combined, these kind of headlines are starting to become more and more common, okay? In fact, listening to one of the conference calls that the Netflix CEO recently put out, I think 6 months ago or something, he actually said that his biggest competitor right now is not Disney Plus, it's Fortnite, right? Netflix's biggest competitor right now is Fortnite. That's a little bit crazy to think about, but the Netflix CEO said it. Maybe the Netflix CEO was just trying to throw some shade at Disney, who knows, but it's very interesting nonetheless. So anyway, and if you look at other metrics like the gaming subreddit is number 2 and closing in on the funny subreddit. Can you imagine game dev being more popular than humor? I can't believe it. But anyway, let's keep going. So it's in demand. This is actually an old resource. We used to maintain this website, 494jobs.com, to help you. We would list job openings and stuff. Now it's a bit different. What you do now is you go to the Wolverine Soft Discord, which is where I post jobs that I feel students are very likely to get if they apply. So we still do job sourcing in this course. It's just in a different place than it used to be, okay? Unity, the technology that you will be learning and using for this course, is used very heavily in industry, and not just on indie games and medium-sized games, but on the largest games too. So it's often used for prototyping at big AAA publishers. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild actually did this, okay? So in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, this is a GDC conference that I was at, you can do really cool things. For instance, they have interactive systems that interact with each other. So you can take your bow and arrow, you can shoot your arrow through, it's made of wood. So through a fire, it lights on fire and then carries that fire element to the wooden thing behind the fire where you shot, right? Well, in order to know for certain whether this would be fun before dropping immense resources to make it in the beautiful 3D engine, what they did was the team at Nintendo actually prototyped it in a 2D version of Zelda, a classic version of Zelda, using the Unity engine, okay? So it's super, super cool usage of Unity as a prototyping software. And they did the same thing with the idea of cutting down a tree and then using it as a raft to get across water, right? So they cut down a tree, you can use it to get across water. They knew these ideas were going to work because they prototyped it with Unity. But it's not just, and Resident Evil 7 did something very similar, right? Before spending all the resources on this extremely beautiful game, they actually prototyped their environments and scenarios in Unity. It didn't look quite the same, but the experience was still scary, so they knew it would be scary once they poured all the resources to make it beautiful and realistic. However, Unity is not just about making prototypes, okay? This is a game made by Microsoft, a first-party studio game called Recore. It is a beautiful open-world game set in a desert with some AAA graphics and a lot of fantastic animation work. So you can make deluxe, fantastic visuals in Unity if you want to. It's a very flexible and diverse engine. So this is a game dev course, but this is also an experience development course, okay? And what do I mean by that? Well, what you're really creating, think to the trailer. Think to the trailers we just saw. You were trying to create an experience for someone. The experience of attending a showcase and seeing a booth. Look at this booth in the back, right? With the characters printed out and popped up and looking at you while you play. The experience of just seeing in that booth from across the conference center and heading up to it, seeing all the cool display stuff, and then finally playing the game. It's a full package, okay? It's not just the game. By the way, this is what an in-person showcase looks like. This is the website we created to kind of simulate an in-person experience but virtually, right? So this is 494showcase.com. This is the showcase we did for last semester as COVID hit. And we got 1.2K impressions on this website. What we did was we put all of your games up here in this kind of nice tile pattern. And then at the very top, there are actually some tiles that show a live stream where people were actually playing the game live in real time. And it also linked to a Discord server where people could give you feedback and stuff and tell you how much they loved your game and throw screenshots into the Discord, a channel per game. It was so much fun. And we got 1.2K impressions, which is actually probably more than we get at a normal showcase event, right? Former 494 students, former UMich students who now might live in Seattle or Austin, Texas or San Francisco can come back and experience all these fantastic games that you made. So we'll be looking to upgrade this experience a little bit for this semester if we can't do an in-person showcase, okay? Anyway, experience development. Chat, who has been to Disney World or Disneyland? Has anyone been to Disney World, Disneyland? Yeah? All right. So Disney World, Disneyland, what's interesting about this this place, this Magic Kingdom, right, is how it actually uses real-world level design to kind of give you a certain experience as you enter the park, okay? So back in the day, theme parks had a big problem, okay? Before Disney World, themes had a big problem. They often suffered from terrible crowding, and their designs were just a little bit random, right? So their designs tended to be like this. You've got this big space, and what happens is people would tend to go to the center. Hey, it's the closest location to all the cool stuff, so let's go to the center, okay? And maybe a big ride or an attraction would be in the center of this park, okay? And what Disney did in laying out the Magic Kingdom, which is what you see here, was he tried to solve this problem, okay? He said, you know what, we're going to solve the problem of overcrowding by designing our park in a very particular way, okay? Here's an overhead view of the Magic Kingdom. So here's where you enter, okay? It is essentially the only place to enter the park. You always go through this aisle, okay, from the tram or the parking lot. Okay? And as you walk down this entryway, what do you see in the center? You see this beautiful big castle. Wow, it looks like it's just out of a movie or a fairy book. It's crazy, right? And you think, oh my gosh, that castle's so cool. I'm going to do there's going to be some amazing things to do at the castle. But here's the thing. Think about it, chat. As you walk to the castle, it's beautiful, but as you get closer, a few things probably hit you. One, the castle really isn't that big, is it? The castle's not that big, and when you get to the castle, what is there to do there? Well, you take a photo, and then, well, there's no ride at the castle. There's no diner at the castle. You can't sleep at the castle. Like, it's not a hotel. I think it actually is, but only for a very select few. And so you think, well, okay, there's nothing to do here, right? The visuals bring you into the center, but there's nothing to keep you there, right? There's nothing to do. But then, wait a second. Look at that. What is that over there? It's super tall. You can see it from the castle. It grabs your attention. It bursts above the skyline. It's Space Mountain, one of the park's most impressive and fun rides, right? And so, maybe you start to head that way. Wait a second. You look in the other direction, far in the distance, you see, what is this, right? The Matterhorn. Or you see something very tall like Splash Mountain, right? And wow, there's this huge snowy mountain in the middle of Southern California, or, the middle of Orlando. That stands out a little bit, And so, where are you going to go? Okay, there's nothing to do at the castle in the center of the park. So what you do is you start walking out. You start walking toward these big landmarks in the distance. And on the way to these landmarks, you not only spread out, but you also bump into smaller attractions on the way. So this has the effect of taking everyone to the center and then spreading them out kind of smoothly. Okay, some people go straight to these big rides, but a lot of people on their way there will stop at the smaller rides. You get this more even distribution. And suddenly, crowding is not nearly as bad in any particular place as it used to be. Okay, everyone is not in the center. They've been spread out all around the park. Okay, that is some fantastic and impactful real-world level design. Okay, guiding the player by using landmarks that can be seen from anywhere, that are very interesting landmarks. They grab your attention, and using that to guide you to different parts of the park and make you go there and solve the problem of overcrowding. They still do have overcrowding problems, but I imagine they can fit more people in the park now before it reaches those problems. Anyway, this is an experienced dev course. We're going to teach you some of the principles that allow you to design not only games that guide players around in an interesting and smooth way, but also techniques that allow you to design anything, essentially, from PowerPoints to parks to booths to games. So anyway, this is also a visualization course, a quick little aside. So this is one of the projects I made when I was a graduate student taking the EECS 589 networking course, okay? Chat, you got to keep this a little bit of a secret, okay, what I'm about to tell you, okay? I'll show you what it is. This is a tool that I made in Unity that visualizes a data set. That data set consists of inputs on a phone. And so the question was, could we infer from this input set whether or not a user was having a good time or not? The idea was, if they were having a bad network connectivity problem, then they would reveal that by being frustrated with their taps. They would express their movements would be very kind of exaggerated and frustrated, whatever that means. Okay, and it's kind of cool. You visualize the movements and stuff and the inputs, and you can actually scroll through the timeline here on the side. Okay, chat. Here's the question. I went into the final presentation for this course. My team did. And our results were just really not great. We couldn't really tell whether people were having a bad network issue based on their inputs. Okay, that might not surprise you, but that, unfortunately, we just couldn't make it work. And so we thought we were going to fail. Okay? And our presentation was not going very well. Okay? And so, we thought we were going to bomb, and then suddenly we showed this tool to our professor, okay? And our professor was like, wow, this is a really cool tool, and it's visual and interactive, like it makes a lot of sense, it visualizes the data set perfectly. Like, wow, I bet this took you weeks to make. Chat, how long do you think this took me to make, chat? How long do you think it took me to make this? Okay, we got 2 days, we got a year, we got 1 night, we got 3 days. All of these are way too high. 1 week, a minute, that one's not too high. Chat, this took me about 45 minutes to make. okay? This interactive application. It took me about 45 minutes to make. And so, and this is this is a little bit mean of me, maybe not so great of me. But when the professor said, "Wow, I bet this took you a long time to make," essentially, just, yeah. And we ended up getting an A. It went really well. Anyway, that is to say, you can do some very impressive work in visualization when you have these kinds of skills, right? Game dev skills translate very well to doing that kind of work. Here is a social media kind of visualizer that shows you a social media graph being constructed over time from a data set. And this took like less than a day to make. All right. This is a really cool startup in downtown Ann Arbor called Brideview. What it does is it actually lets you visualize and set up your wedding and design your wedding before you actually drop the serious cash to make it happen, right? So this is a really cool and impactful startup in downtown Ann Arbor. This uses Unity technology to do. And so this is not only a course, like a visualization course, right? But it's also a very entrepreneurial one as well, right? Downtown Ann Arbor, there's a really cool startup called Spellbound. And the idea is we want to use game dev technologies and AR to bring pop-up books to life, right? To distract children during scary medical visits. Okay, a very cool humanitarian and entrepreneurial use of game dev technology. Let's take a short look.
Spellbound is a mobile app that uses augmented reality technology to bring paper books to 3D life. It can recognize what it's looking at and pull characters out in 3D. It can read the story aloud, and you can interact with the paper page in ways you've never imagined before.
We work with hospitals who are actively seeking to improve the pediatric patient experience and who want to arm their child life specialists with tools to distract, engage, and entertain.
It's making the hospital more interesting. Perhaps we can use it to create scavenger hunts or something to get kids up and walking and exploring the hospital and being compliant with treatment, but also...
So this is such an impactful startup and impactful use of game dev technology. And after you take this course, it is something you will be able to do. And I say that, I know that, because this startup hires so many of my EECS 494 students. It's crazy. I love them for that. And it's really fantastic. So anyway, Spellbound, Christina York doing an incredible job. Thank you so much for your efforts. Entrepreneurial course, you will be doing some project management in this course, right? Okay, you do not have a lot of time in this course, okay, for the amount of stuff that you need to do. We'll get to that part later. Part of being efficient and make sure that you are really building a lot of great stuff, you know, with the limited resources you have, is managing and thinking about those resources. Time. Where is your time going? How much time do you need for a certain task? Are your estimates off? Are your estimates overestimating? Are they underestimating? Right? Okay, you've got a team. Who's working on what? How do we make sure that we don't both work on the same task? How do we make sure the right tasks gets to the right person with their expertise? Right? Jira is an industry standard project management system that you've probably used during your internship. Many industry, if you've taken one, many industries, the industry really uses this a lot, okay? From technology to game development. So you'll be getting experience with a course Jira server for your projects in this course, okay? And you've got really cool stuff, burn down charts that can help you understand, you know, whether you are ahead of schedule or behind schedule. It's a lot of really great stuff. This is a really nasty burn down chart. I'm not even sure why it's in this presentation. We'll have to take that out. Oh yeah, that's why. Okay, if your red line in a burn down chart, this red line indicates how many hours you still have to invest to get all of your tasks done. And this straight line tells you like where you should be if you want an even pace, okay? If you find yourself below this straight line, that means you're ahead of schedule, good times, right? If you're above this red line, you've got some extra work to do, otherwise you're not gonna finish everything. You need to either cut stuff or you've got some crunch that you are in for, okay? And crunch, in many cases, it can be avoided with the right project management techniques. So that's something we'll be working on in this course. Okay, how can you schedule your efforts? How can you kind of distribute your efforts evenly over time and track to make sure you're on track so that we can avoid crunch? It's a very hard thing to do, but something that can be practiced. We can get better at it, okay? So we'll be doing that in that course, another thing you'll learn. An entrepreneurial course, this is also a very diverse course, right? Game dev is very diverse. So has anyone seen this game before? Has anyone heard of this game right here? Chat, have you seen this game? A number of you have, but not in this form, because this is what the game looks like with programmer art, with only one engineer on the team and only engineering stuff going on. This is what the game looks like when you introduce an artist and the art discipline into the game production. Okay? This is Braid, a very, very popular and impactful indie game. One of the first big indie games to break out. Okay? So anyway, so game development is so many diverse disciplines coming together, from engineering and art and music and business/production and game design and others as well, coming together to make a game, okay? And this isn't necessarily like, so okay, we mostly only have engineers in this course, but guess what? You will have to spend a bit of time and effort thinking about these other disciplines too, okay? And I have to tell you, that's one of the most fun things about working on games as an engineer. You get to learn about all these incredible other disciplines as well, okay? So, artwork, right? So you'll be using stuff like Photoshop and Illustrator, and if you're at the AAA level, you'll be using stuff like Maya. Indies would probably use something like Blender. Design work, right? Paper prototyping, trying to figure out whether a set of mechanics and systems will work before you spend all the resources to implement it in code, which is really expensive. Okay? What about business and production, right? This is my former boss at EA, Andrew Wilson, right? His job was to keep the company on track, and part of that is through project management and managing people who manage projects and all of that, and making sure that our resources are being allocated to an efficient place, and that people are being impactful and productive, right, with their time. What about music, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, listen to this music. Can you guess what game it's from? Without looking at the title. Oh my goodness, like hearing this music, it just fills me with energy, right? And it makes you want to go outside and run and jump and stuff. And that's the point, right? Because this is a Super Mario Galaxy 2 orchestra and one of the main themes, right? So absolutely fantastic music. And just notice how it fills you with energy. Notice how the first part is triumphant. And then suddenly a drum beat comes in the background, and suddenly you feel like you're moving, right? Okay, we gotta move. It's just incredible. So anyway, very impactful stuff, music. So you'll want to think about that quite a lot. We'll skip that. Not only about the different disciplines, but what about artistic expression, right? So you can have these beautiful, realistic games, but you can have very stylized games, right? This is a game called Mad World for the Wii, Platinum Games game, where they really wanted to play up the violent aspects of the game, and so they decided to go black and white for everything except for the blood. They wanted to make sure you could notice the blood, so it's the only thing that gets red in the entire game. What about is Return of the Obra Dinn? This is a recent indie game that is a 1-bit colored game. Each pixel is either black or it's white. It uses a special shader that does, I believe, dithering to kind of simulate different shades. Very impressive stuff. Not just artistic expression, though. And by the way, we'll be teaching you how to do some of these visual effects via shaders in SIMD programming. But what about artistic message? Okay, what about games like Passage, right? What about games like Mainichi? Games that have something to say maybe aren't meant to entertain you. Can games be more than entertainment? We'll be talking about that later. Can games not only show you someone else's life, right, like a movie could, but could they put you in someone else's shoes, give you the decisions that other person has to make? Okay, maybe. We'll see. Okay, we'll talk about that later. So this is not only a diverse course, it's also a very challenging course. We're going to finish up this lecture really fast, take a 5-minute break, okay? This is a challenging course, okay? This is a schedule of game development courses, a really cool schedule of fantastic game dev-related courses. And these are not our courses. These are the courses at MSU, which has a lot of different game dev courses. They have an entire minor and major for it. And it's really, really impactful and great. We've got essentially one game dev related course, okay? And yet you still need to compete as students for open game dev jobs with entire game dev programs, okay? That's a tall order. The good news is that you're UMich students, you can do it, right? You're fantastic, I believe in you, and we've seen it work, okay? We've sent students to Sony Santa Monica to Sucker Punch. In fact, and we also send people to a lot of local studios too. So it's really, really cool stuff. Anyway, so an apt comparison for the workload in this course is probably around EECS 482, though the nature of the work is a little bit different. Anyway, you should expect to spend, once we get into it, after this first week or two, you should expect to spend, 1 hour per day on the course, to around 1.5 to 1.75 hours per day on the course during some of the harder parts of the first project, okay? And then the course tends to balance out a little bit. And generally, this course has a very steep learning curve in the first 3 or 4 weeks. Once you get past Project 1, you usually have a much lighter load, okay, until the end of Project 3. So that gives you an idea of the difficulty curve. Here's the basic schedule, okay? So for this first week, we're going to be doing basically tutorial assignments. These are pretty straightforward and easy, and you essentially just need to follow some steps. You do need to innovate a little bit because you can't just follow a tutorial. You need to implement some new features using some hints we provide. Then you will spend about 3 weeks working on a classic game project. That can either be The Legend of Zelda, you'll be remaking The Legend of Zelda, the first dungeon, or Metroid for the NES, 1986 games, the first region of Metroid, okay? You will then be adding on a dungeon that's of your own custom design to both of these games. We used to allow you to do Crash Bandicoot. This is a fantastic title screen one of our students did for Crash Bandicoot. That's no longer one of the games you can do, I apologize. You will then, for Project 2, be doing prototypes. I believe you'll only be doing 1, though, but you'll have 2 weeks to do it. So that's a little bit inaccurate. I'll change that later. And then you'll have 6 to 8 weeks to work on a final showcase game in teams of 4 to 5. Project 1 is done in a team of 2. Project 2, the prototyping, is done in a team of 1. Okay, so you will be given time to make your very own game just by yourself if you want to, with the most unique idea you can think of, okay? So in other words, in this course, we spend the first third of the course focusing on engineering, then the second third of the course focusing on design, and then the final third of the course we focus on both for your final game project, okay? Okay, anyway, what I want to do is I'm going to play just a couple of these games and then we're going to take a break, and we're going to spend about the final 30 minutes. We're going to show you a quick introduction to Unity, which is the main tool you'll be using for this course, okay? Let's go ahead and watch a few of these. I want to watch Ninja Brian and Steve the Llama, okay?
Ninja Brian and Steve the Llama is a cooperative action-adventure game about two best friends as they traverse through a dangerous and treacherous landscape.
Right? Fantastic, fantastic game. Very fun co-op game. Asymmetric co-op. So one player is the ninja, has certain abilities there. One is the llama, has certain abilities. They have unique abilities alone. Together, they're very powerful. And they help each other out by utilizing each other's abilities to get through the environment. Absolutely fantastic, with beautiful music and really great camera angles and camera movements too. Very cinematic, actually. Let's keep looking. This is a game called Dashing Bears. I think I got the title wrong here. I apologize. All these bugs must be the first day of the semester. Let's take a look at Dashing Bears.
In Dashing Bears, player must escape from hunters while avoiding numerous obstacles. Use an array of items to speed up. Slow down other bears. Don't fall behind or the hunters will get ya. Do whatever it takes to survive, because in this game, there can only be one survivor. Dashing Bears. Rated E for everyone. Mild cartoon violence.
Yeah, chat, be sure to press F for the poor wasted bear. Humor is something that just goes so far in these trailers. Please remember that not only when you're making trailers, but your game as well, okay? A little bit of cheese is absolutely fantastic, okay? So anyway, let's keep going. This one is Rekindle, another fantastic game. One of the developers of this game, Ayana, is now at Mojang in Washington State at Microsoft.
Our tale is of 4 girls lost in a vast forest. The rising moon brings the bitter cold, and creatures begin to crawl. Our damsels, however, are not in distress, for they are prepared. Relighting their fire keeps them warm. Gathering kindle fuels the flames, and swarming monsters are vanquished with an elegant twist of their mighty torch. When overcome by the darkness and cold, the fire is our girls' reviving light. Only our brave girls can survive the mysterious forest of night.
Another absolutely fantastic trailer and an absolutely fantastic game too. Something very special about this game, it's hard to tell from the trailer, but its input system is just incredible. So in this game, if you want to do something, if you want to, for instance, use the torch, look at the torch. Look at the torch. You swing the torch, right? And you think that's a button press, but it's not, okay? In this game, you actually, if you want to ever move the torch, whether that's to attack or whether that's to melt one of your friends to free them or do something else, you use the analog stick, okay? It's not a button press, it's the analog stick, and this is very important. Okay? Because this analog stick input control, it is so much more expressive than a single button press. Okay? A button press, the player can press it. That's pretty much all the agency they have when they're interacting with a button. However, when they're interacting with an analog stick, well, okay, what if they just want to do a quick jab, right? A really sharp and precise jab. Boom! You got it right there. What happens if you want to do a swipe, right? A hook. Well, you can do like that, right? Do the hook. And you know, like you start getting into like fighting game levels of expressiveness here. And if you want to go on ultra defensive mode, you can do the spin, right? By just spinning constantly, okay? And it's super, the controls feel one-to-one, right? You push up and your character pushes their torch up, right? In other words, the game felt incredibly responsive and also incredibly expressive and also incredibly simple, which is all fantastic, right? Usually, if you want to make a game more expressive, you have to make it more complicated and complex, and then players don't know how to do it and they need a tutorial. But with this game, they allowed you to be expressive while keeping things very simple, right? It felt almost Nintendo-like in their control scheme, right? So anyway, fantastic game. I encourage you to play it if you can find it online. I hope they posted it somewhere. I'm not sure. I think this might be the final game we take a look at. This is EECS Infiltration. Let me know if anything looks a little familiar to you, okay, when you watch this trailer.
EECS Infiltration is a cooperative stealth game in which two players, a spy and a hacker, must communicate verbally to navigate levels and achieve goals. Your mission: to sneak into the BBBB at night and manually change your EECS 281 autograder results.
Yeah, this game, super special. Players at the showcase absolutely loved the kind of asymmetric co-op. One thing that you can't get from the trailers, at the showcase, this game was played with 2 monitors, and the monitors were put back to back. So if you were the hacker, you couldn't see what the infiltrator was doing. You couldn't see their screen. If you were the infiltrator, you couldn't see what the hacker could see. So you had to communicate via voice. And so the infiltrator would be going through and say, oh, I see a camera. Hey, hey, hacker, hey, turn off the camera. No, the other camera. You turn off the other camera. I'm in this room. All right, thank you. And then they move forward. And so it was super, super great communication. And what I found typically is when you have a team-based game, or even a competitive-based game, if you have players playtest your game and they're talking a lot, they're communicating a lot, that's a very good sign of engagement in many cases. Okay, so keep that in mind if you want to make a multiplayer game. It's going to be a little bit tricky this semester to do so, but we'll talk about that a bit later. Okay, what I want to do is I want to take a break for about 5 minutes, okay, maybe a little bit longer, and then we're going to go over some logistics of your homework assignments, which released today, and then we're going to show you a little bit of Unity, okay? We're going to make a funky little demo game. I don't know, whatever comes to mind, we'll make that, okay? We'll see you. I'll turn some music on, and we will see you back here in about 5 minutes, okay? See you in a bit, chat. Okay, we are back. All right. Question: does anyone in chat have any questions on the course thus far? We'll give you like 30 seconds to write a question real quick on anything you've heard. Okay. Choice of Zelda or Metroid. Okay, I don't see any questions, so we'll probably move on. If I miss some questions, Ishwar is in the chat, and I bet Amber is as well. They can help you out with some of the logistics. We'll be talking more about logistics on Wednesday, okay? We'll be going over some syllabus stuff and stuff like that. But you can already read that at EECS494.com if you want to. Speaking of EECS494.com, you can go there. You can find lots of resources here. I encourage you to go to the student projects, and you can have a lot of fun watching some fantastic trailers from previous semesters, okay? So let's keep going. I want to talk to you about your deliverables launched today, due on Monday, okay? Now, one of the places that you should always look to go when you're ever confused about this course, if you're ever confused about where you are in this course, what you're supposed to be doing right now, what's due, what is released, where's the assignment spec at, what am I supposed to do? You should go to your Canvas page. On the home page, you'll find something that looks like the schedule, okay? Now, what'll happen is after this lecture is done, the agenda that I'm looking at right now, okay, this lecture notes thing, with all the links to the presentations, all the links to the homeworks and stuff, it's going to be put right in here under lecture plan, okay? And the assignments themselves will also be linked to as well. So here's how you read this, okay? What you do is you look at column A, you find the current date. Let's say that it is currently the 16th of September, okay? Okay, you're going to find, Wednesday, September 16th. What you do is you just go here with your eyes, and you just start looking right. If you ever hit a yellow block, that means you're supposed to be working on something. You're supposed to be midway through something. And then you just go up until you see what that thing is. Okay, P1 research. I should be working on P1 research assignment right now. Okay? By the way, where did my chat go? It looks like it's not displaying the captions stuff anymore. That's very disappointing. What happened to it? Can we move it? Did it go disappear in OBS? Did it? Let me try and fix this really quickly in case someone's using it. I'm not sure. What a bummer. I'm not sure why it disappeared on us, but we'll have to close caption it later. If anyone is hard of hearing and needs the captions, can you please send me an email? And I'll invest more time in making sure this doesn't happen again if we have someone in the course who could use that, okay? So I apologize, everyone. Anyway, what you do is you just move your eyes to the right. You see a yellow block, that means you're midway through an assignment. If you see a white block, nothing to worry about. If you see a green block, that means you're starting the assignment today, right, that day. If you see a red block, it's due today at 11:30 a.m. as class is starting, okay? So that is how you read this schedule, and this is really a place where you can find just about everything. However, one thing you cannot find is the rubric, okay? So if you go into your assignments and look at assignment, and then click on any assignment you see, so we'll go to like tutorial 1 or something. Let's go to tutorial 1. What you'll see that's very helpful is you'll see a rubric that tells you how we will be grading this assignment. There aren't a ton of secrets about it. You can just see exactly where your points are going to be coming from, okay? So that's that. Another thing I forgot to mention about difficulty of this course, I think I forgot what I forgot to mention. Maybe I'll come back to it later. Let's keep talking about the assignments, okay? So you have 2 assignments from the schedule. You have 2 assignments due today and 1 tiny assignment, okay? Sorry, launching today. Tutorial 1 is a pretty cool assignment. You will be creating Rollerball, okay? Rollerball is kind of the classic Unity Hello World, okay? And you'll be following a very short tutorial. I think it's like a 30-minute tutorial or something, 45 minutes. that takes you through creating something like this. However, it's not going to look like this, okay? What you need to do after that tutorial is done is that you will be adding additional things. You'll be adding additional stuff. You'll be adding a jump mechanic to the game, okay? You'll be adding a jump mechanic. You'll be adding a fall reset mechanic, as in if you fall off the stage, it resets the level and your score and all that. You'll be customizing the stage, okay? You don't have to make it a big stage. If you change it even a little, you're going to get those points. And then the final thing you're going to customize is your player avatar, okay? So you will be learning about the Unity Asset Store. You'll be allowed to find one 3D model. You could probably do more, but you'll be allowed to get a 3D model from the Asset Store, and you'll be allowed to put that into the game. So we're not going to use a ball anymore. We're going to have a duck. Okay, it's going to look like this. You're going to drag a duck in. You're going to parent it to your object, and then look at that. You got a tiny duck. We'll make it a bit bigger, I guess. The video's not too long. We'll make it bigger, and then hey, look at that. We got a duck rolling around. Okay, that's a lot more entertaining than a ball. You'll also be making a web build of this assignment and posting it in the Discord server chat so that we can play it and see what you did. So if you are bored, please consider customizing it even more than you're required to in the spec. Okay. All right. So let's get to tutorial 2. Tutorial 2 is a recreation of Flappy Bird. Okay. So you'll be following a video tutorial to recreate Flappy Bird. However, at the end, you will be required to add multiplayer to it, okay? So you'll be adding local multiplayer, and by following some directions, and you'll get some tips. It's not entirely laid out what you should do, but you're given quite a few hints that could make this very, very easy, because it is really, really easy to add to this game. Once you really are experienced with Unity and the composition design pattern. You'll get there. This is one step toward that. Anyway, so these are your 2 assignments. You also have one additional assignment, Flappy Bird Battle Royale. You'll have one additional tiny assignment that's due in 7 days, and this is simply to fill out this form. It's the Project 1 team registration form, where you will be forming a studio of 2. You'll provide your unique name. You'll provide the unique name of your partner. And if we have to, you might get a second partner if we have an odd number of people in the course. You'll choose your studio name, very important. And you'll be choosing whether you want to recreate The Legend of Zelda or Metroid for the NES. And that's essentially all you need to do. Now, on the topic of choosing partners, it's partner choosing is very important. However, it's very hard. You don't necessarily have the knowledge of your peers to make that decision. So don't worry. If your team doesn't go super well for this first project, hey, you get a different team of yourself for P2, and then on P3, you can choose a different team, right? If you can't find a team, if you're in this class and you don't really know anyone all that well, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. What we'll do is when Monday comes, if you don't have a team, we're going to merge you onto a team randomly. Okay, we'll create teams, and there you go. That'll be your project team for a couple weeks. Okay. Otherwise, team formation, very, very important stuff. Unfortunately, you can't make a super good decision yet. Maybe you can. I don't know. Anyway, 6 hours and 7 days, slightly less than an hour per day. Okay, for these 2 assignments. The estimate for Rollerball is 2 hours. The estimate for Flappy Bird is 4 hours. Do not leave this to the last moment, okay? If you do a little bit per day, if you allocate some time on your calendar to do 494 work, then you will have a very nice ramp up in this course, okay? I think that's just about it. I want to really quickly show you, you know what, 494ville, I'm not going to show you it. It's really cool. But if you have a Minecraft game client and you're bored, you can go to 494ville.com and you can see and build your home among all the other students who have done so. It's a fun little community. And there you go. What I want to do is I want to show you a little bit of Unity, okay? And when you watch this, I don't want you to I don't want you to pay attention too closely, okay? You don't have to have your notebook out. You don't have to be taking notes. All I want you to do is just kind of listen and enjoy, okay? We'll be creating a very, very tiny little tech demo here because we only have, about 15 minutes with Michigan time going on, so we'll make it fast, okay? And you'll be learning about all this stuff later in assignments and longer form tutorials, okay, and lectures. Okay, so let's go ahead. Oh, so if we aren't able to form it, it's okay not to fill out the form. Yes, you'll be fine. We'll place you on a team later. Yep. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Unity. This is the environment in which you'll be spending a lot of time this semester. And it has a couple things in it, right? One, you might notice right away, is this play button. Let's play the game. And congratulations, we've made our first game. Hey, right? And it's playing right now. The game's playing. The problem is there's nothing in the game. It's not very exciting. In the scene view, that's the game view, where we can watch the game being played as a player would see it. In the scene view, we can actually see everything that's in the scene, okay? We can actually like fly around. We can right-click and use the WASTA to fly around, and we can see we've got a little camera here, okay? And we've got a light. That's pretty much the only thing we have. Let's go ahead and add something. If you look on the left, we can see the hierarchy. This is where all of the objects in our scene actually are. It's a nice list, so it's easy to find them all. You can click this plus button, and then you can create all these interesting stuff. How about a 3D object? Let's go for a cool cube. Hey, there's our cube. It's right there. See? Right? Can we see it in the camera view? It's way off to the side. Let's go ahead and center it. What we'll do is we'll click on the cube. On the right, an inspector fills up. This inspector contains all the different properties and components that can be adjusted for this cube. For instance, we can grab the X value right here. We can drag it back and forth to make it move around. Let's go ahead and zero out the position of this cube though. So it's right in the center, very nice. We're gonna grab the camera and then we're gonna raise it up. We can also raise it up by going to the scene view, clicking on the camera here. W and E and R kind of make these widgets pop up, and we can manipulate the camera that way. We can see the camera moving up and down in our little preview view. All right, great. We play the game, nothing's gonna happen. Why? Because the cube doesn't have any functionality on it. Okay, it's just kind of sitting here, and well, you know, that's it. So one of the interesting things is in Unity, every game object is kind of composed of components. Okay, a game object, like a cube, all it is just a collection of components, okay? You can see every component in your inspector, and we can name them actually. We got a transform component, which was responsible for giving our cube a place, a position, a scale, all that stuff. We've got a mesh filter, which contains like the vertices of our cube. We've got a mesh renderer. Hey, you wanna know what the mesh renderer does? If we turn it off, we can turn off a component by just unclicking the checkbox. Hey, our cube is gone. We turn it back on, our cube is back. So that's a really easy way to figure out what a component does. Just turn it off and turn it back on. This box collider means it can collide with stuff, but the cube itself doesn't have any physics. If we want to give it physics, we need to add a new component that does so. We can go to Add Component, we'll look through this cool list of built-in stuff, find the physics little category here, and what you'll want is something called a rigid body. You add this, and suddenly our cube has, once it starts playing, suddenly it has gravity. It falls away. Did you see that? And so a rigid body is a component that gives our thing gravity. So let's go ahead. We don't actually want this rigid body on here because this is going to be a platform for us. What we're going to do is we're going to make this a little bit wider. So we'll make it like 5 and 5, right? What we're also going to do is we're going to create a material. This project view shows us where all of our assets are, all of our files are on the local file system. If you right click and go show in Explorer or show in Finder, you'll see that we actually have, you know, that assets folder we see that right there is an actual folder on our disk. So let's go ahead and create a new folder. We're going to call this materials. We're going to go in and we're going to create a new material. Let's call this just a little green. Okay, we'll pretend it's grass or something. We're going to take this material, we'll make it green. Okay, you can see it down there or preview down there. Go ahead and drag it in. Can't do it there. We'll go to the scene view. We'll drag it in like that. Boom, there we go. We've got a green little platform. Let's go ahead and take the main camera. I want to raise it up, bring it forward a little bit, and then rotate it down on the x-axis. You ever wonder what axis is? You can always just see it right here. There's a little gizmo that will tell you which way each axis points in the corner, okay? So let's go ahead and Control S to save. And now what we can do is we got a platform. Let's introduce another game object. How about a sphere? So we've got a sphere. It just popped into existence right there. That's not really where we want it. We'll bring it right there to the origin. We'll raise it up. It was inside, so that's why it wasn't visible. And what we'll do is we'll give this a rigid body. Okay? And we can play the game, and the ball is going to fall, and it doesn't fall away. One of the coolest things about Unity is that we can actually adjust the game while we're playing it. So we'll go into the scene view. We can see the ball here while we're playing the game, and we're going to go ahead and rotate the thing here. Oh, interesting. Our ball is actually asleep. The ball has fallen asleep because it thought nothing was changing in the environment. So we'll go to collision detection continuous, and then it's going to fall, right? So we can go to continuous, and we'll tilt this a little bit so we can get some interesting action here when the game starts, okay? So we've got about 10 minutes remaining. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue doing some stuff after that time. And what you can do is you can watch the replay on Twitch or YouTube later if you need to move on, okay? We won't go too far past 1:30 though, okay? Okay, so this is pretty cool and all, but what if we want to control this ball? Well, reminder, a game object, and let's call this sphere the player, we'll rename it here. A game object, again, it's just a collection of components, right? If we take this rigid body away, if we click over here and then remove it, then it's not going to fall. So if we want this, this sphere to do something custom of our own design, we need to add a component that does that. However, we might not be able to find a component that does it for us, right? That's built in. So what you do is you go new script, and we're going to create our own script, okay? We're going to call this arrow key control, okay? We create a new script, and we're going to give the editor a little bit of time to think about it. And there it is. We just created a new component. See that? It's new. The problem is it doesn't do anything yet, right? Unity doesn't know what we mean by arrow key control. It's a component that just does nothing. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click on this, and what it's going to do is it's going to open up Visual Studio, because a component in Unity is just C# code. Okay, it's a C# script, which means it's essentially a JavaScript, where we can go in and we can actually edit the code. We can see the code that's powering our game objects. And so we're going to wait for our component to open up here. You might be wondering to yourself, okay, what does a component look like in code? Right. I think we need to double click it again, maybe. Come on, Unity. Hello. There it is. So if you were wondering what a component looks like actually in code, this is it. This is the entire component. Of course, our component doesn't do anything, right? Our arrow key control.cs component, the C# file, does not do anything, but this is the code it starts with, okay? So we've got a class arrow key control. It derives from a base class called monoBehavior. This is a confusing name that Unity chose. I wish they hadn't, because monoBehavior is basically component. Okay, the class arrow key control is derived from the base class of component. Okay, you get two functions given to you. Okay, this function is a function that runs when the game starts or when your object spawns, and this is a function that runs when every single frame, so 60 times or 30 times per second. Okay, and what's interesting about Unity is you don't have to register these functions anywhere to get a callback, right? If your function has this particular name and this particular return type, then it will execute, okay? We'll talk about that later. For now, you can notice this. This is how you do your output, your just basic output. Hello, Unity. And let's do this. New Unity frame. Okay? So what's gonna happen, and we'll actually comment this out, is when the game runs, this component is going to go ahead and execute its start function. So we should see a hello Unity. Where are we gonna see it? We're gonna see it in our little console box. We'll see it down at the bottom, but if we look at the console where the game output goes, we'll see it right there, hello Unity. If we go ahead and uncomment this, then we should see that message a bunch of times. So we'll go ahead and restart the game. Come on. Right, there we go. So we can see that every single frame we're getting a new message, okay? Those messages are saying new Unity frame, and if we go all the way to the top and look at the first message, it's hello Unity, exactly as you would expect. Okay, this is kind of boring. So let me go ahead, kick it into overdrive a little bit. Let's do some programming of input. So in order to know whether the player is holding their arrow keys down or not, what we can do is we can use a function called input.getKey or getAxis, okay? We actually want a function called getAxis raw for our case. And then we need to tell it, okay, what axis of the input do you want? Well, we want the horizontal axis, okay? Well, this function returns a float, okay? A float is kind of like a double. Unity really likes floats. It really does not like double. So let's do this horizontal input, okay? And let's do the same for vertical. Float, vertical, input, input.getAxis raw. You really need to make sure that you have code completion working because it makes learning and using Unity so much easier. So now that we have these values, first of all, let's just test it to make sure that it's working. So we're gonna print the horizontal output every single frame of the game. This is also something I recommend. When you're trying to implement something, don't implement it all at once. Implement it step by step. Okay, let's make sure. Oop, I haven't set up the input axis. Oh, let's try, hold on. I misspelled it. It's a capital letter, I think. And that's why we do this kind of iterative intermediate testing. It's currently compiling, and now it's back up. Let's go. Okay, it's printing out 0 right now. However, when I press the right arrow key, you see 1. When I press the left arrow key, we get -1. So it's working good. We can move on now. Okay? Now what we want to do is, you know that rigid body component on the player object? That controls the acceleration, that controls velocity, controls gravity. We need to use that component to make our sphere move. So here's what we'll do. We'll create a variable of the rigid body type. We'll call it RB. When the game starts, we're going to fill that variable. Currently, that variable is null, but when the game starts, we're going to go, hey, get our component. Which component do you want to get? We want to get the rigid body component. So now, after the game starts and the start function executes, RB is going to be a valid variable containing that component. What we can do now is we can go RB.velocity. You know what, let's do add force instead. We're going to add a force to our ball, our rigid body. That is a vector 3. In Unity, a vector means something very different than it does in C++. In C++, a vector is essentially an array, a managed array. In Unity, a vector 3 is like a 3D point. If you want a vector, like a C++ vector, a list or something, what you'll do is you'll use list in C#, okay? That is a vector in C++. Anyway, we'll do horizontal input, we'll do vertical input. No, actually we won't. We'll do vertical input on the y-axis, on the z-axis, and let's see how that goes. We're going to go ahead and flatten out our cube so that we don't fall off immediately. So there we go. And now, if I use my arrow keys, I can actually roll around and influence the ball, right? Which is pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and do another thing here. I want to be able to adjust how fast my ball goes. So what we'll do is we'll create a variable. We're going to call this, how about movement speed? Yeah, something like that. Okay, and we'll set it to initially be equal to 4, okay? We'll take this movement speed variable, which we can assume to be 4, and what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this vector. Actually, let's do this. Vector 3 speed equals, let's just call it movement. Actually, let's just call this force. Do some instant refactoring here. We're going to throw this on, and then we're going to put this force variable right into here. So we haven't changed anything, just a little bit of refactoring. What we'll do also, though, is we're going to go force equals force times movement speed, okay? And we're actually going to normalize this force vector, okay? We're getting into a little bit of 3D math, but essentially we're just taking the direction, right? Actually, let's call this movement direction. We'll do some more refactoring. Movement direction. We'll normalize it and then multiply it by movement speed. How about, let's rename this 3. Okay. To get our final movement. We'll then use that movement. This should be actually be force. I apologize. I did not sleep very many hours last night. Okay. So we'll go ahead and apply that. And now we expect to be moving a lot faster, right? We've got that public float variable up there, and it is 4. We're multiplying by 4, our direction by 4. We should move around a lot faster now. We're done compiling. And we can certainly move around a lot faster. But what if that's not good enough? Well, here's something interesting. Let's pause the game. If you go to your player, you can see that there's a new variable, there's a new property underneath your component. It's the movement speed, right? It's right there, right? It showed up in the Unity editor. The reason it showed up is because we made it public. One of the coolest things about Unity is that we can actually change it while we're playing the game. So let's say I want to go even faster, right? We're moving even faster, but that's really not good enough. So let's go ahead and make this 1,000. How about that? Whoa, do you see that? Whoa, I lost my ball. We moved way too fast, right? And so anyway, let's go ahead and the reason you tend to make public variables in Unity is that you want to change them at runtime, to experiment, to find out what works well. Let's move this to like 10, because that felt pretty good. Anyway, so this is working pretty well. What I want to do, though, is I want to create something more interesting. I want to create an object that is like a blob monster. You know, balls are kind of boring, but I want to create a blob monster that's going to spawn more balls and look a little bit goopy and weird, okay? So what I want to do is I want to create a new component, and we're going to call this spawn game object every frame, okay? Okay, and this is a game. This component that's basically going to take a game object as input, and it's going to create new copies of that all the time. Okay, and so what we'll do is we're going to say, hey, how about we have a public game object variable? Call this prefab, and then every single frame, what we're going to do is we're going to call a function to create a new copy of that prefab, that game object. GameObject.instantiate will do that for us. Okay, what do we want to create? We want to create whatever this game object variable is. Okay, where do we want to create it? Well, let's create it right at our current position. What do we want the rotation to be? Let's make it no rotation. Okay, what this will do is this will create a game object right where we sit. We just have to say which game object do we want to create. In order to specify that game object variable, we need to actually do something called create a prefab. You see the new variable showed up. We got the parent variable right there, prefab. We got the prefab little property right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new quick folder, call it prefabs. We're going to drag this player variable in, okay? We've just created a new blueprint. You could call it a blueprint, a new prefab of this sphere. So what we could do is we could go ahead and drag these spheres out, and they're all going to work the way the current one does, right? This is what you do if, for instance, you want to make one type of enemy, but you want to have 100 enemies in your stage. You can do something like this. And they all work the same way. They all have the arrow key component, which means they all roll around when I use the arrow key, okay? We don't want to actually put them out there, though. We want to spawn them at runtime. So what we'll do is we're going to drag the player component in. And this is actually going to be a bit of a problem because this player component, it's going to go exponential. Because if we spawn a player, that player is going to spawn more players. So we'll edit the prefab over here. Normal players we spawn in won't spawn other players, and they also won't use arrow key control. Actually, we'll just call this blob sphere. Okay, so what we should see when this game starts, let's go ahead and add, let's go add arrow key control, and let's add back our spawn game object every frame. We want to spawn a blob sphere, and we will also make this object invisible. Let's see what happens. Whoa! Do you see that? So what happens is, well, actually, there's a question. So would we just have to make sure manually save while running the game if we do make any changes during that time? Unfortunately, when you're making changes during a game, you can't keep those changes unless you copy and paste the game object or copy and paste the component that you changed. This is a big complaint with Unity. They're essentially lost, but if you make tiny changes, you can remember what they were. That's the typical way to do it. So what happens is we spawn a bunch of game objects into each other. Those game objects collide with each other, and that's bad news because they go flying out of each other. So what we'll do is we'll call this blob sphere. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to put that player on that layer. Okay, so we'll go to blob sphere. It's going to be on that layer. Player is going to be on that layer. Good. And then what we'll do is we'll go into the physics. We'll tell blob sphere objects on that layer not to collide with each other anymore. So we'll go into physics. Let's go to physics and we'll say, hey, blob sphere objects no longer collide with each other. We'll uncheck that box. We'll play the game again and we'll see what happens. One thing you should notice is that it's really great in Unity. Whoa, look at that. I'm a worm now. Oh, that's awesome. Look at that. That's creepy. Oh, and part of my worm body just like fell off the side. Whoa. Anyway, part of Unity development is you always want to be testing out tiny tweaks you make, okay? That's some of the power of Unity. What I want to do is I don't want to spawn objects right where I currently am. I want to spawn them up in the air a bit. So what we'll do is we'll create a new vector3, new 3D position. We'll say spawn position. It's going to be transform.position. Plus, we're going to do a little bit of randomness. So Unity engine.random inside unit sphere. How big do we want that radius to be? We'll just leave it 1 for now. So that's our new spawn position, and hopefully we'll see something more like a glob. Though I'll be honest, I really did like that worm. That was very appealing. I didn't expect that to happen. Whoa, all right. Whoa, look at that. Oh, it's like it's eating everything. I like it. All right. Anyway, so we have our glob component. The final thing I want to do is I want to make this a little bit juicier. So juiciness, if you can believe it or not, is a technical term when it comes to game design and game production. It's the idea that you really want to make something very kind of visually rich, auditorily rich, and interactive. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this game object we're spawning, this sphere, game object, new sphere, and we're going to say, you know what, let's make it a random color. How about that? We're going to new sphere. In order to change the color of something, we need to change the material. The material is in the render. You can verify this yourself by going to the sphere, going to the render that makes it visible, and finding that there's a material here. So what we'll do is we'll go, you know what, new sphere, we're going to get your render, and then we're going to grab your material, and then your material has a color. So we're going to create a new color. A color is an RGB value. So what is it? What should we do? Let's go ahead and go Unity Engine for the R. Let's go Unity Engine.random.range from 0.0 to 1.0. That's a random R value. We need a random B value, a random G, and a random B. We'll get rid of the comma over here, and then that should be okay. Let's see what happens. Kind of curious. I'm a little bit curious how this is going to look. Whoa! It's the ball pit monster. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Here's something we can do as well. I want to actually take this new sphere. I want to give it a little bit of a random movement. Okay, so we're going to grab the new spheres. Which component do we care about when it comes to movement? We care about the rigid body, and we care about the rigid body's velocity. Okay, and by the way, the reason it's very easy to find all these properties, you need code completion, right? Because that makes it easy. If you just put a dot, it will actually show you all the cool functions and properties you have access to, and you might find velocity, and that's something you can use. So we'll set velocity to Unity Engine.random a dot inside unit sphere. So again, what this does is it gives us a random 3D point, a vector 3, inside of a sphere. So this should give us a little bit of random movement. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Gonna double it, okay? And we'll see what happens. Because we'll also make our platform a little bit smaller because I want to see some stuff fall. And then we're going to be just about done. So let's make this like 7 by 7, seems about right. So let's go ahead and see how this looks. Maybe that's too powerful. Too powerful, doubling the velocity like that. All right, we got a little bit of movement. See, it like spreads out, and then my monster falls off. Okay. Look at this. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Everything's falling. We can make that look a bit nicer, or at least a bit more interesting. Let's go to our blob sphere. We're going to add another component. This one is really cool. It's called the trail renderer. And if we run it right away, we'll just see a bunch of pink streaks coming out of the balls. Right? So they've got these pink streaks that show the trail of the balls. Look at that, kind of gooping. It's like a pudding monster now. Bright pink pudding. What we can do is that pink is what you see if Unity's trying to tell you I'm missing something. I'm missing a material. So what we'll do is we're going to grab a material by clicking that dot. Let's just go with the sprite default. So that's a pretty vanilla material. You can experiment with different ones. I want the width of the sprite to start off very small, and I want it to get a little bit. Actually, I want it to start off big, and I want it to get smaller. So something like that. And I want the color. What is the color? Where's the color adjustment here? Can I right-click on the color? Here we are. So I want the color to start off as a really cool red, but I also want it to then end up becoming a blue. Actually, I want this to be a yellow, so we can go maize and blue. But then, yeah, no, actually, I think that's good enough. I also want it to fade out, so we're going to make its alpha go down steadily, but we're going to have its alpha still be pretty strong until midway through. And then we'll go out and we'll see how this goes. Whoa, look at that. Oh, look at that. Wow. It's like a lemonade monster now. It's a fountain. Ooh. Put this in the background of one of your games. Create a really unique kind of abstract environment, right? That's pretty cool. A little bit of lava going. Don't let this kind of thing run forever because these objects will never despawn and it will eventually lag out your game. That's a lemonade fountain. Now I'm thinking, okay, what kind of lemonade mechanics? You know, what kind of lemonade / summer style game mechanics could we add here? You know, what does a lemonade monster look like? What's the lore? What's the backstory for that? You know. Anyway, so this is all kind of random, right? And you know what would be interesting? Let's do this. Let's get rid of the render on the. Let's get rid of the render so we don't see the ball part of the ball. We just see the trail. I wonder what that'll look like. Maybe it'll look much more like a fountain. Whoa, that's strange. That's very strange. Wow, look at that. Interesting. Anyway, so team, right, ladies and gents, the takeaway here, right, is like you can create a pretty interesting little experiment here, a pretty visually interesting little fountain we've got going with very little time. You can create a little bit of interactivity in very little time. You can prototype stuff and move very fast using this software. It gives you a lot of power, but it also gives you quite a bit of flexibility to make interesting, unique stuff. Okay? This is what you will be learning how to do in this course, particularly in the early going. And while it's going to be frustrating and slow going at first, you will hit incredible speeds of development, probably by the time you get to Project 3. Okay? And even midway through Project 2, your confidence with this software and implementing stuff, the technical and engineering side of things, should be much more comfortable for you. So hang in there during these early stages. If you need any help, right, we've got office hours Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays as well. I believe Ish was planning to do a discussion section of sorts on Friday, and a totally optional implicit one to help students out. We'll announce something on Piazza about that a bit later. But anyway, yeah, you can do some really cool stuff, and you can do this even faster if you're not taking the time to explain stuff. So this could easily be like a 5-minute thing if we're not explaining anything. So anyway, that's all we've got for this lecture, ladies and gentlemen. If I forgot anything, I'll send out a message over Piazza. Otherwise, make sure to get started. Check out your assignments, okay? See if you can knock those out really fast. See if you can knock them out tonight. You know, who's going to be first to get these done? I wonder, you know? Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay healthy, stay safe. And, yeah, the office hours are on the at the bottom of the homepage on Canvas, okay? So it is on there. Otherwise, I'll stick around for a few minutes to answer any questions anyone has. If you want to post in chat, I'll turn the music back on. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions, chat, and I'll stick around for a little bit. Otherwise, you're free to go. Enjoy your assignments, okay? They can be a little bit fun, but just they're not fun if you put them on the last minute, so don't do that. Something to note, team, is on these first few assignments, Tutorial 1, Tutorial 2, and Project 1, you can't work with others. You can't share code with others. However, you are allowed to kind of talk at a high level about the assignment and about the concepts. You know, so, you know, what concepts might be relevant. You know, hey, do you get this rigid body thing? Hey, my collisions aren't working. You know, do you understand how collisions tend to work in Unity? You can set up toy examples. You can do experiments with others. You can do all that stuff. Just don't share code, and don't outright say what the answer is to an assignment. Don't share the solution. You'd be robbing your peer of that knowledge, and that peer might be on your team later. So you want to make sure they get this the right way. Get this knowledge the right way, okay? On Project 2 and Project 3, however, you are very welcome to share code and stuff like that. Be sure to check the top of the assignment documents to get a look at what the restrictions are for a certain assignment, okay? You can always ask us on Piazza if you're confused. I'm going to put this lecture onto the... I'm going to put this lecture onto the schedule. So here it goes. That's really big. Why? Not sure why it's that big. Let's, here we go. Here we go. And I'm going to start linking some of our assignments here. I'm going to go here, copy. Oh, so all office hours are 1 hour. However, I think Ishwar was wanting to do 2 hours, so it might change a little bit. So I use the Google Scripting API for quite a few things, automated emails and stuff like that. But I haven't set up the automation for the schedule quite yet. Part of it is that I don't know. I just haven't had a free day in a while. You know. I'll bring back my face here so you can... Okay, and I'll link the P1 Partners assignment as well. Okay, any other questions, chat? I'm reading the chat right now. Oh, yes, absolutely. So Unity has a fantastic community and fantastic documentation. If you're ever confused about how to do something in Unity, or you want to know about something in Unity, all you have to really do is just Google Unity and then the topic you're interested in. So collisions, Unity collisions. I want to know more about how that works, okay? So there you go. You just Google Unity collisions, right? And you can do anything for that. If you click on it, you'll see that it's a nice big scripting UI, right? That tells you, I think it tells you, let's see here, describes a collision. Oh, that's an actual data type. So you might have to look at like the second, here you go, manual. You might have to look at the first, second, or third hit, but you're almost guaranteed to find some really high quality tutorial documentation describing how things work, how components work together when you have multiple components. For instance, how a rigid body works together with a collider. Anyway, you can also find a lot of, if you want to implement something like how do I do split screen multiplayer in Unity? You would Google Unity split screen multiplayer, or just Unity split screen, and what you'll find is some documentation linking to like how the camera system works and how you can tell a camera to only render to one half of the viewport of your window. Anyway, it's really good documentation. Google for it. It's not against the rules. However, if you use some code from online, you can do that at least as long as it's not too much code, like you're not getting a whole project, and so long as you credit where you're getting that code. That's usually fine. However, for tutorial 1 and tutorial 2, we don't want you copying and pasting any code. You can look up docs, but don't grab any code unless it's in the Unity docs, okay? That's just it's gonna cheat yourself a bit, and that's gonna make the project 1 really painful for you when you get there. We don't want that. The course is difficult enough. Only do the personal introductions on Piazza. Yeah, only do it on Piazza. You don't need to do it on Canvas. I don't think there is a place for you to do it on Canvas. There's no discussion forum opened up. Just do it on Piazza, okay? Yeah, maybe in the future we would move that to the Discord server or something, but for now it's just Piazza. The Battle Royale trend, so I think the Battle Royale trend was enabled by technology. It's a really cool example of technology enabling new types of experiences. So at a certain point, server and networking technology got good enough to make these kind of like super big shared experiences possible, and that used to be a really, really nasty thing to try and do. And like with that becoming technologically possible, like people started experimenting with, okay, what are really interesting game designs that make this work? So like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds was one of the first big breakout Battle Royale games and brought one of the big innovations of, okay, let's have like a fog that comes in and it gradually forces players together. One of the big problems was you have a ton of people, but if you don't respawn them constantly, then your map becomes so sparse that you can't find anyone and the experience just falls apart. It is also, I think, a big improvement in that in a normal team deathmatch, like in Halo, like you get killed and you have a respawn timer or something, or you get killed and you're out of lives in that match, and so you just have to wait for the match to end. In Battle Royale, you lose and you immediately can just dive out, and you can just jump into a new game, right? A new big game where you have another shot at the chicken dinner, So I think it's a really cool genre, and I think with games like Fall Guys, you're starting to see the Battle Royale design philosophy being kind of mapped onto other stuff, right? So not necessarily a shooter, but okay, a party platformer. Turns out it works really well. And Tetris 99. Okay, what does a Tetris puzzle game look like if you apply Battle Royale mechanics? So I'm super excited about the genre. I can't wait to see it applied to more things. If you're not on a Windows platform, first of all, Visual Studio is available for Mac. You can get Visual Studio for Mac. I've heard it works very well. I'm pretty sure it's free as well. So I recommend that. Unity comes, I think it comes with an IDE built in called MonoDevelop if you're on Mac or Linux. And if I recall, that worked okay. I don't think it was as powerful as Visual Studio, but I do think it had code completion, which is really the thing that you just need. It's the killer feature you gotta have during this first few weeks. So those are the ones I recommend. Otherwise, I recommend Googling some Reddit posts. Just Google Reddit Unity IDE Mac, and I'm sure you'll find some crowdsourced suggestions on what works really well for Macintosh. Okay, I think that's just about it, everyone. Good luck to you. Do the best you can on these assignments, and let us know if you run into any snags, okay? And I will see you later. Bye-bye.